So we did the season 6 video and now we're going to be doing the top 10 episodes list. First the best one and then the worst one. Now it might be hard for some fans to come up with 10 episodes plus honorable mentions for a list of the best season 6 episodes, but I have to say I actually enjoy like pretty much all the episodes on this list. So yeah, let's just get into it.
Hey!
In 10th place, we have Single Cell Anniversary. This is one of the most heartwarming episodes of the mid-season era. Plankton and Karen's relationship has not been the best during the show, and seeing Plankton actually trying to do something nice for his wife for once is nice to see. Now, I feel like this is one of those episodes that get undermined by the countless episodes where Karen and Plankton are terrible towards each other. But it's still pretty sweet. Now, the formula angle didn't need to be here, and it kind of ruins the episode for me, at least a bit. Because you don't really feel like Plankton is doing this for Karen, because he just wants to get the formula. And yeah, there's like one line of dialogue that implies that he's trying to do this for Karen, but it just feels like he doesn't care about her at all, which is accurate with most other episodes, and she doesn't care about him either, so I guess they're perfect for each other. It's kind of a sweet episode though, if you try to look past that. In 9th place, we have A Life in a Day. Living Like Larry is iconic, and the rest of the episode is very solid. It's a very fast moving one, and I really like the characters here. It reminds me a lot of Roller Cowards, with Patrick and Spongebob doing something they don't really wanna do, but they are pretending that they are brave enough to do it. And I also like the ending where it kind of comes full circle with Larry having to step in to save them. It's a good episode for post-movie standards. In 8th place, we have Grandpappy the Pirate. This is one of my favorite episode concepts of the whole show. I love pretty much every pirate-related thing in SpongeBob, and the Krusty Krab being turned into a pirate ship is exactly what I want to see. I think the plot kind of carries the episode, and while Grandpappy gives a great performance, it's not the funniest season 6 episode. There are multiple episodes on this list that made me laugh more than Grandpappy the Pirate, and that's why it's not higher on the list. Because SpongeBob, despite what the modern seasons seem to think, is a comedy. Seeing more of Mr. Krabs' backstory was awesome though, and is part of what brought it in this list in the first place. In 7th place, we have Toy Store of Doom. This episode just feels nostalgic for me. I'm not even sure if I even watched it as a kid, but I guess the locked in a toy store at night plot is just something everyone thought about as a kid. It's just a fun watch, and while there aren't really any stakes, this show doesn't need stakes to work. It's a comedy show after all. And this episode is pretty funny. This gag is particularly pretty hilarious.
Patrick, is that you?
What?
I said, is that you?
I can't hear you! It's too dark in here!
And 6th place, I think? Yeah, 6th place is Sandcastles in the Sand. Many people would have this as number 1. Y'all are wrong. Nah, I'm kidding. I can definitely see why people would have this as number 1. It is a real fun episode, and the sandcastle battles between Patrick and SpongeBob are really epic actually. But for me, it's kind of the same as Grandpappy the Pirate. Don't find this one very funny. Don't get me wrong, it's not devoid of comedy or anything, but it's not very big with jokes and focus more on the plot. Which is okay, but that's why it's lower on the list. In 5th place, we have Chum Bucket Supreme. Plankton and Patrick teaming up is something entirely new at this point, and something I wish we saw more often, because this episode is really funny. One of the funniest post-movie episodes, and one of the most underrated ones for sure.
What's that number before 1?
0.
Oh, right. Congratulations! You have 0 customers!
Like I said in the season 6 video, Patrick is pretty consistently funny in post-movie SpongeBob. Not as funny as pre-movie of course, but compared to the other characters, he actually remained decently funny after the movie. And in this episode, he's hilarious. Chum is fun. The number 4th spot goes to No Hat for Pat. We rarely ever see episodes that actually explore Patrick as a character on a deeper level, and we get one in season 6 of all seasons. Patrick is very likable here, and the episode is also decently funny. I think the scene where Patrick works as a sign holder at the beginning has some good gags, and Patrick falling over is really funny, which makes the plot even better, since we as viewers become just like the people of Bikini Bottom. Kind of a genius episode if you ask me. Number 3 is Spongebob vs. the Big One. We are just going from underrated to underrated episode here. This special is slept on. I might get some hate for this, but I like this special better than any of the ones from season 4 and 5. The vibes here are really immaculate. Spongebob vs. the Big One truly feels like a special. It uses many characters, has multiple plots and really good locations. I really like it. And number 2 is Suction Cup Symphony. I have praised this episode before for being one of the very few episodes that dare give Squidward a good ending, instead of just pulling the rug from underneath him in the last 30 seconds. And not only is the ending great, the whole episode is really entertaining. Spongebob and Patrick are not purposely annoying Squidward and are just playing or whatever they are doing outside. And even if the two are annoying, it all pays off at the end anyway, so you can't really be mad about it. It's a really great story if you ask me. Reminds me of Band Geeks. So before I reveal the number 1 pick, let's go through 3 honorable mentions. We have Krusty Crushers. Krusty Crushers is just kind of a feel-good episode. While like the whole episode is just kind of people getting beat up, SpongeBob and Patrick are kind of in a good mood the whole episode. And that is kind of infective. It's also really nice to see some older characters from the Salty Spittoon returning in a way that actually makes sense. Season 13 should take some notes from this episode. Then we have Porous Pockets. I think that's how you pronounce it. Now, in this episode, SpongeBob is obnoxious and the whole second half is not very fun to watch. But the first half is surprisingly entertaining. SpongeBob and Patrick just going around spending money and being funny is what the first part essentially is. And lastly, for the honorable mentions, we have the Paddy Keeper. This episode is a bit anticlimactic and doesn't make all that much sense, but the whole thing is entertaining and the plot is thrilling. I will say the ending is not predictable. It is stupid, but it's at least very hard to figure out, and the whole mystery it's intriguing. Okay, so in my opinion, the best episode of season 6 is Professor Squidward. Might be a very surprising number 1 pick for some, but I really liked Professor Squidward. This is the only season 6 episode funnier than Chumbucket Supreme in my opinion. And it's probably even more underrated. No one talks about this episode. First of all, we gotta give it props for being a Squidward torture episode done right. What do you call it? A Squidward karma trip episode? I think that's what Pie Guy called it. Squidward deserves all this torment this episode because bro just flats out steals someone's identity. The only crime worse in Bikini Bottom is probably littering. But this episode has some of the funniest SpongeBob and Patrick shenanigans in post-movie SpongeBob.
Excuse me, is this something you'd like to share with the rest of the class? Go on, you've already interrupted once. You might as well tell us what was so very important.
Well, I was just saying that these lines you drew remind me of a railroad track.
I've never heard anything more insipid, insane, uninteresting, or irrelevant.
The train scene in particular is just so surreal and hilarious. I like this episode a lot.
Yes.
So that's my list. Next video will maybe be the top 10 worst of season 6, but it all depends on the episodes that air next week, and A, if they are interesting enough to make a video about, and B, if I have enough time to make a video about them, as they air really late on Friday for me. I might even not even being able to see them live, and I might be working on Saturday, so we'll see, but either way, I'll see y'all next week. Thanks for watching.